Laughter is a sign of trust. If I laugh with you and you make me laugh, I let down my guard, but that's because I feel comfortable with you. So teams that laugh positively together means they have a level of trust. That's what it's telling you, that there's a cohesion and a trust that you can't fake.
Welcome. I'm your host, Stefano, and this is When Leaders Talk, a podcast about leadership, but most importantly, about leaders. Have you ever considered having fun as a measurement to assess the level of trust in a team? Well, if you haven't, you should. This is something I've been talking about a lot with today's guest, that is Kathy Klotz-Guest. She is an amazing person. She's fun, for real. She's a coach, but she's also an improv artist and a stand-up comedian. So she knows a lot about fun, right? She knows a lot about the effect of sharing good laughter with the people you work with, not just at home with your friends. And this is something, as I said, we've been pretty much dwell a lot and discussed during this conversation. But not only that, we also have been talking about some improv technique that you can use to improve creativity in your team and to make sure that there is a psychologically safe environment for you and for the people working with you. Kathy also, she has worked in tech companies as marketing exec, so she knows a lot also about technology. She actually lives in the Silicon Valley, so basically for osmosis, I guess, she knows a lot. But we've been touching upon the importance of technologies such as AI in leadership today. I don't want to spoil anything more, and I really want to invite you to listen to or watch to this episode, because I'm sure that there is a lot to unpack and something that you can take away from this conversation. For me, it's been really inspiring from many points of view. I want to invite you also to subscribe to this channel so we can keep this podcast going with great guests such as Kathy and grow even more. And then also you can follow me on my social media accounts like LinkedIn and on Instagram and Facebook. Well, with no further ado, Kathy Klotz-Guest. What is your definition of leadership?
Oh, wow. That's a big question, huh? That's a good one. I think leadership, oh man, I've seen bad leadership, I've seen good leadership, but it's funny, I never thought about the definition. It's sort of like, you know it when you see it, you know what it is, when it's good. I think leadership makes you feel is a way of showing up that makes people feel inspired, that makes people feel like they can do more, that they're capable of more. So leadership done well, I think lifts everybody up to a level of performance that everybody's capable of. I think that's what it is. It's not management. We too often use it the same way as management, and I don't see it that way. We don't need more managers. We need more leaders.
Right. What is the difference then?
I think managers manage to like metrics, right? There's so much emphasis. Like when I was in tech, it was like you had to hit certain metrics. You have budgets, you have people metrics. And you're managing to metrics and a dashboard, but leadership is an intangible. I think leadership is about inspiring people to like take initiative, to innovate, to come up with new ideas, to be better, to find new ways to do things. And leadership is either people follow you or they don't. And managers manage numbers and budgets and stuff. But like, I think leadership is a whole other level of like how you show up. Either people want to follow you or they don't. And I always laugh because the people in my experience who were the screaming the loudest that they were leaders, like you turn around and nobody's following you. You know why? Because you're not a leader. It's not a title. It's not a title. You got to be worth following. You got to make people feel good. And I think too often leaders, they mistake. They think that yelling at people or making them work harder, and a title entitles them to respect. And that is just not it at all. Mm-mm.
I like what you say, and then actually I agree with you. I love what you say about being in this intangible. The leadership is intangible. It's basically having all those soft skills that you really need to bring people together and with you, as you say, and follow you. So when you turn when you turn around, you see them; they'll not disappear.
Yes.
But at the beginning, you say, I know. I've known good leaders and bad leaders. So which is a bad leader? Not the name of the person, but what makes a leader bad?
Well, isn't that funny? Yeah.
If you want to make names, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah, I wouldn't even call them leaders. I think they were leaders by title, but not in practice. I think good leaders, like I say, always lift people up and make people feel like they have autonomy and they are capable of more. And they set the parameters for success. They're open. They talk about expectations. They're honest. They have the hard conversations with a lot of respect. Sometimes you have to have hard conversations, but they have them with respect because they realize they're dealing with a person. Bad leaders care about themselves. Bad leaders don't lift other people up. To me, I came up during really bad leadership in tech where it was that command and control stuff. I was going to say the other S word. It's that command and control shizzle where if I yell at people, they'll know I mean business, and I'll yell till I get respect. I'll yell, or don't bring me problems, bring me solutions, which is kind of bullshit because your people come to you because they can't see everything. They don't have a 360 and they're coming to you saying, I think there's an issue here, but I can't see everything. So they're trying to warn you that maybe there's a problem. And the people that were like, well, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. That's a really dumbass thing to say to your people because they're going to stop coming to you and bringing you potential issues. They're just going to stop coming to you with anything. You've just created a hostile place where they're not going to tell you anything because you've made it clear you don't want to know. So I came up in that time, which was really horrible, really horrible. And I think the first time I really had a great leader, this leader gave me parameters and said, just get it done. How you get it done, I don't care. They made me feel like I had some level of control over it. They made me feel unmicromanaged. They made me feel like I could do things. They put me in uncomfortable situations that I didn't know I could handle because they knew I could. And they made me feel like I was leveling up. And I think it's having somebody's back, having your team's back. And that's the kind of leadership that really takes, I think, an evolved company. It takes evolved people and it takes an evolved company. Not the garbage, not the other garbage, the command control crap. No. That's militaristic. It comes out of the military, right? It's very military, kind of thinking. But that doesn't work for everything.
No, you're right. I'm coming from the military, and actually, that's the way
Yeah.
we were taught mostly
Yeah.
to be, right? I mean, and it was an informal teaching. It was like observing others. And actually, you were talking. It was like, oh my God, I'm guilty. because I was one of those people that sometimes used to say, well, bring me the problem and a solution, right? And actually, I don't want to justify myself, of course, but I want the intent was to actually, if you want, try to push on initiative, right? Like try to have your people having some initiative and come with their own ideas.
Yeah.
That was my intent, but I understand what you're saying. It's still they don't have the whole picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's a great thing to want them to have initiative. I think that's really a great intent. That's a wonderful intent. And I agree with that. I think in practice, though, I can remember so many times where that was said to me. And I was like, well, how could I possibly have a solution when I am not privy to all the things you are? And I see this much, you are in meetings and you see this much, and I see this. How can I possibly know that? And I felt like it presupposed that I saw everything and I had access to a solution. But what it ended up doing was creating an environment where people were like, you know what? I don't want to get yelled at today, so I'm not going to say shit. And what ends up happening is that you have literally severed really honest communication with your team because nobody wants to put their head on the chopping block. And I think I saw it backfire. I saw it ultimately backfire a lot of times. And I think, we have to get away from thinking in these binary, all or nothing terms. That's just not the way it works. And people don't speak up because they're afraid. Why don't people say anything? Why they don't bring problems? Because they're afraid. Then they get labeled as a problem maker instead of somebody who's trying to like, hey, I see something coming. We should get on it now. But they're labeled. And that's a really, really scary thing. And fear will shut people down.
Absolutely. That's why now there is a lot of talking about psychological safety in a working environment. It's basically people feel safe to speak up and to make mistakes, right? That's the most important part, probably, because as you say, then you wanna invite people to take initiative and to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
As a leader, you need to accept the outcome of it. That can be good or not so good.
Well, that's exactly the issue, is that there's a lot of like say one thing and do another in companies. And one of the things that I would say that I see a lot, and you probably do as well, is that I talk to people all the time and they're scared. They are scared because leaders are saying, well, you need to step up and you need to do this. But all they see around them, a lot of people, is blame and shame. And they don't see the kind of environment that lets them recover from mistakes and what kinds of mistakes even are okay to make, because leaders never talk about it. So leaders talk a good game, but there is a lot of fear of judgment and blame. And honestly, most companies have it, and they have it. And then they wonder why, leaders will say, well, I don't know why my people don't innovate. And it's like, well, I know why. I can spend 5 minutes and nobody's laughing or having fun. That means there's low trust. And that's another thing that's really important, is that I can tell you is that when laughter, positive laughter, healthy laughter is high, your team has high trust. But when laughter, positive laughter, is low, it means it's a barometer. It's a metric that's telling you that your team does not trust. They don't have high trust. So should you listen to laughter in your organization? Absolutely. And I think leaders blow it off like it's not important. Garbage, wrong. It is the single biggest bellwether to tell you if people trust that they can drop the veil, make mistakes, and be okay. But if your people are looking around to see if it's okay to laugh, I promise you it's low trust. And you and I both know that when trust is low, no one's going to tell you, I don't trust you. They're not going to tell you that.
Yeah, but I like this metric that you're just introducing this conversation.
Yes.
The laughter. It's
important.
The fun, the fun part of working.
Yes.
I think is one of those aspects of in a team or in a working environment. Probably you're right. It's not very kept in a high consideration by anyone. It's not. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard a leader trying to assess how much his or her team members were having fun while working.
Yes.
I would say in a healthy way, right?
Yes. In a healthy way. Yeah. I think part of what I see is that, we associate, humor and things like that as frivolity and all that other stuff. But really what it is telling you is that when people feel psychologically safe and they feel like they can make mistakes, they feel free to drop all the masks and be more of who they are. And they're more ready to show up and be playful. And if you're not seeing that in your organization, you should care. Because it's usually a predictor. It's a leading indicator, not a lagging. It's a leading indicator that your team is not innovating to where they could. And I think the mistake a lot of leaders make is, oh, my team is not innovative. My team doesn't have creative ideas. So they bring in a creativity expert. And, I laugh because I've been in those situations where it's like, your team is fine. Your team is smart. They're funny. They have great ideas. They're just not telling you, holding back on you. And you are the problem. And that's a hard one. That's a really hard one because I think most leaders really want to do right by their teams. They really do. But I think our own blind spots get in the way. And, if your team can't have fun, if they can't lighten up, if they can't make mistakes and tell you about those mistakes, you might unwittingly have created an environment where people don't feel safe to share that, or they're very they fear being judged by their coworkers too. It's not always the leader. That if you have hostile coworkers and you allow a certain type of mean-spiritedness in your team, that will kill innovation as much as leaders, your boss will kill it. We're always worried about the judgment of our coworkers. And sometimes coworkers, can be, if we allow that to fester, that'll kill great ideas too.
Yeah, but it gets with this is a factor that you want to consider is the culture of the organization you're working, right? So
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure that there are organizations where, I don't know, not right now I can think of Google, where I'm sure fun is pretty much part of the working environment.
Yeah.
But maybe other organizations, I don't want to mention anyone, are less inclined to it, right? So even if you have this interesting way of leading, you might feel the need to repress it and keep it at bay. Okay, I can, because as you say, you don't want to be judged by your peers or your boss doesn't share your view.
Right. And it's one of those things where actually I've heard studies, that came out of Google, the Project Aristotle that talked about, was Google led. But here's the interesting thing too, is I can tell you, being in the Bay Area and having a lot of friends work at Google wasn't always a fun place to work. Google got very big. People started leaving because it wasn't fun anymore. And that's actually why I love this study, and it's so credible, is that when you have an organization where the fun leaves and the oxygen gets sucked out of the room, a good company says, what happened? What do we do to make this better? And then they become very intentional about it. It's okay to have peaks and valleys where you're in crisis mode, and fun's not the first priority. I get it. We can't go into every meeting like fun. I get it.
No,
But if fun leaves the building altogether and never comes back, something is not right. And I think what you have to do is set culture in an intentional way. But culture is not, you and I both know, culture is not this one size fits all lever that you pull. You have to start to read the signs and the leading indicators. And some of the leading indicators are when innovation dips, when creativity dips, when people clam up and stop talking in meetings, when laughter, positive, healthy laughter. If negative laughter takes its place, where negative laughter is sarcastic and putting people down, you have a morale problem.
Right.
You have a morale problem. And you should look at that, because that's exactly telling you when humor becomes negative and turns negative, like it did at Enron. The signs were there. They were all like, a lot of the salespeople were just going around rife, making fun of customers, making fun of employees. That should have been a big, big red flag. Hello. It meant that there was no respect. Nobody was, bleeding. And so you have to look at this stuff because it's there. You just have to look at the signs. Yeah.
And that remind me, when I left the Navy and I was in a position, and my boss, that was not happy about me leaving, actually.
Yeah.
So basically the last 3 months he had a very conflicting approach with me. Everything was wrong. It's not like I care, because of course I was still working, but I was like, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not going to do it for the career. I'm leaving anyhow. But he was upset with me. And in Italian, we say, when you are upset with a person, you say something to this person, like a reprimand. We use the word, the equivalent would be the fish. It's like, I am fishing you. It's a way of saying. Yeah. So when I left, the day I left, there was this cake, and I brought on the cake the title of a book from oh my god, the author of the Hitchhiker Guide, the Intergalactic Hitchhiker Guide. Now I don't remember.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So basically, the book was called "So Long and Thank You for All the Fish," right? And there were a lot of references, but as soon as he read it, he stared at it. It was like, oh, he was so upset. He didn't get it until finally, after 5 minutes, I was able to explain it, whatever it was. It's because he was not a fun person at work.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very serious environment. It was working at the presidency of the council of the ministers. So it was, a political setting, blah, blah, blah. But still, I was always trying to have the laugh, a healthy laugh, as you said. And then it was one of the things that, now that you made me think about it, brought the team together.
Yeah.
Even now, after more than a year, we still chat and talk, and we have fun communications and so on. And it's beautiful. It creates bond.
It really does. Laughter is a sign of trust. If I laugh with you and you make me laugh, I let down my guard, but that's because I feel comfortable with you. So teams that laugh positively together means they have a level of trust. That's what it's telling you, that there's a cohesion and a trust that you can't fake. But you've seen teams where they're just not laughing together, and that just means that morale and trust are very, very low. And that is something to take note of, because it is something that, I can spend less than 5 minutes with a team and I can tell you what the trust level is. But it is something that leaders shouldn't take lightly. It means people are stressed, they're not bonded, there's a level of trust. Could be you, could be the coworker situation, could be that they're under a lot of stress. But even under stress, it's important that, all the more important that your team is cohesive, because stressful times means that your team has to come together. So these are things that, I think too often the narrative has always been that none of this stuff matters, but it's just so wrong, because the science of laughter is showing that it's not just about oxytocin and all the healthy chemicals. It is a social bonding agent. And what we now know is that groups that work well together laugh together. So do pay attention to these things. We just know so much more about it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you befriend people, you have a good laughter, right? that's you want to have fun with these people. That's why most of the times. I mean, I'm sure that's why you're a person.
Yeah.
Probably what we should do is suggest to leaders that are listening now to also go to an improv class, take an improv class.
Yes. All the people, everybody take an improv class.
I know I'm striking a chord that is sensitive for you, because you are also a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I'm an improviser. I'm a trained improviser, as well as a stand-up comedian. And they're different, of course. Stand-up, I'm doing jokes to make you laugh. Improv is I'm making it up on the spot. And I'm making it up on the spot because I have a team of people around me that any time will take my idea and add on to it. And we build together. And it's the ultimate in trust. So when you look at improv culture and how improvisers show up for one another, that radical trust allows us to do what we do on the fly and be so innovative. And it's possible, but that's what positive laughter and trust and yes-anding each other's ideas and working together can look like in a healthy team. So a healthy function, there's bad improv groups too, let me just say, but if you have a healthy improv group that is really highly innovative, that whole, whatever's going on there, all the rapid firing and the way that they treat each other, that's possible back in companies. But that's the kind of radical team trust that is possible when we respect each other, we listen to each other, we add on to each other's ideas, which is the yes and, which is what improv is. And so it's other things too. You make your partner look good. You assume that it's a great idea and you find a way to make that idea successful. And it doesn't mean you have to do every idea. It just means let's explore, let's have fun, let's build something creative together. And that kind of culture really is desperately needed in a lot of companies. So yes, leaders and teams absolutely take improv, take many improv classes, not just one. you know?
Well,
Yeah,
the yes and is as you said, is such a powerful tool. And then
yeah,
actually, I think it's really the basic for like sessions like brainstorming.
yeah,
You cannot
yes.
have a brainstorming session without setting the rule of yes and, because
Oh, it
otherwise it's
has to be.
judgment, and you will kill creativity right there on the spot, right? Because people will like, my ideas are not good, so why should I waste time talking,
Yeah.
and so
There
on.
more creativity has been murdered with chalk outlines. Creativity investigation, CSI, the C stands for creativity, right? It's like, oh my God, it's been murdered, right? But more great ideas have been killed because of really bad brainstorming and really unsafe environments where everybody's idea was, yes, but that won't work. Yes, but that sucks. No, that's a bad idea. No's and yes, buts, which a yes, but is a no. It's not a yes, and. And it's really important to set that tone, not just for brainstorming meetings, but I think it's really important. Like yes, and to me is a mindset. It's a leadership mindset. So it's not just, it's really helpful in a brainstorm session, but a yes and is a mindset, I think, for the whole team, how the team works. It's like, yes, and it doesn't mean I'm going to do that idea, but yes, and says, I hear you. Let's explore that idea. Maybe it won't work. That's fair, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's explore. And what you're doing is you're making it safer for people to come up with great ideas versus being crapped on and like, oh, that's a dumb idea. That won't work. Or my favorite, when people learn yes and, they're like, yes and that idea sucks. And I'm like, that's not what yes and is. That's not what yes and, because they're not used to it. It's such a way of thinking about the world, but it will open you up to hearing other people's ideas, and it will open them up to hearing yours. And that's what you need. That's what you want.
It's yes, and it is really the gateway for listening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm allow me to add a layer to it, because it's
Yep.
not just saying you can say more than yes, and you can say yes. What I like of your idea
Of
is
course.
something,
Yes.
even if you don't like almost anything of the idea. You pick the 1% that you like,
That's
and then
exactly
you
it.
add your own piece, and this even more powerful.
Well, yes. Yes, and you're right. So let me frame it, because people misunderstand it. They think you have to literally say the words yes and. That's not it. Yes and is a mindset. So let me, to your point, well said, and I agree with you 100%. Yes and is, oh yes, I like that, tell me more. Oh yes, and okay, this doesn't work, what would you suggest? So it isn't the words, it's the spirit behind it that I can't emphasize enough. I don't care if you use the word yes and, although I think when you're learning the mindset, yes and is a very important way to train your brain. But it really is about, however you say it, the point is to get somebody to open up. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Tell me more. I like that. What if we tried that? Ooh, I could see where this could go. Let's flesh that out. Anything that's in the positive framing is really a yes and, just with different language. And that's okay too. So when you're really learning yes and, it's really, I want folks to understand, it's the spirit of it, the spirit that opens people up. So once you do that, it changes everything. And it will take some people time. They're so used to yes, but that they don't even hear it. They don't even hear it. So just keep repeating it. Yes, and okay, and if you're being but in a meeting, here's what you do. You radically and the person. And then eventually they'll hear you. I promise you. People that are butting me, I'm just like, and what would you like to do? And that's an interesting thought. So how would you move it forward? And how would you add on to the idea? And eventually they go, she's anding me. I get it now. So be patient with people, because I think it's a really different way to look at the world that not everybody's used to.
No, you're absolutely right. There are
No.
a lot of things that actually that yes and allow. It's like it's not just listening as we say, because you have to listen, right?
Yes.
Because you have to follow up on what the other person is saying, but it's also
Correct.
to really keep your mind open all the time.
Yeah.
Just really welcome whatever is coming from someone else,
Yes.
and that's a step towards difficult topics like I don't know, inclusivity and being diversity. You know, welcome really people with not just different ideas but different backgrounds and everything else.
Mhm.
It's there is a lot. It's not just a yes and on itself, as I say, is a mentality.
It's a
It's
mentality.
it is, and I think it's such a powerful tool. And yet, let me ask you this:
Yeah.
do you see it used often? I mean, you talk to a lot of leaders, and you know, you coach them actually. And do you observe, like, do you see that people are actually using it, or they are reluctant?
I think more people are using it now than I've ever experienced. I think there's more of I feel like the beauty about improv is now it's sort of got street cred now. It's got leadership street cred. It's like improv is no longer the theatrical kid on the block being marginalized, right? Sitting alone at lunch. It's the theater kids, right? It's now I think leadership gets it, and it's more practiced and accepted now. I see it in sales. I see it in, executive leaders. I see it in tech. I see it in a lot of places. So I think the answer is I see it more. I think where the struggles are several. One of those struggles is that you might have a yes and leader and a team in a yes but culture. And that's hard. However, I always remind people that while you can't single-handedly change the culture of your organization, you do have some level of control if you're leading your team, how you show up for your team. So in your own micro team climate, you are empowered to yes and. So practice it where you can. Practice it where you can. And just like if you're a team member, you may not be able to change everything. You can show up and yes and the people on your team and start being part of the change. Where I think it needs we need to reframe it is we need to reframe it at the C-suite level. I think we need C-suite folks to understand, and there's a few out there that really understand that yes and is a way of moving forward in the world. It's not about doing it. It's not about theatricality. It's about performance, and it's about opening people up. So I'm starting to see it, but it's always a struggle in certain cultures that have traditionally been command and control. It's a new way of thinking, and it just takes time. It takes time and practice.
Yeah, and I like what you say. You know, the way you can, even if you're not the top echelon in a
Yeah,
company, you can still influence. It's a slower process, of course.
yeah,
It requires time and patience. But if you are
yes,
consistent, at, at the end of the day, your boss will notice it and might implement it,
yeah,
yeah, in their conversations and so on and so forth, and becomes more like. And there is another thing that actually the ESM brings is you being humble,
yeah.
admitting that you don't have all the answers, and even if you're the answer, it might not be the best one. Maybe someone else
Ah,
has.
well,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. It means the beauty of it is that when you start to let go, you realize that you can create better solutions with other people than you can alone. So you have to have a little bit of that. It requires you to take your ego out of it. And I think that's where it gets hard for some leaders is that if your ego controls everything, you're the person going, yes, but, because your ego. But once you realize that if you take your ego out of it, and I get in a room with, five other really smart, well-intended people, we can come up by yes anding each other mindset. we can come up with ideas that never would have existed if we tried to solve it separately. But because we came together in a room and we yes-anded each other, we can come up with some pretty amazing ideas. And that's the gift, is that, it's not arithmetic creativity, it's logarithmic. It's a multiplier effect of all of us adding on. So we just have to, it does take a level of like humility to be able to go, okay, I don't have to have all the answers. I just need to work with great people and then let them shine and we all bounce off of each other. We're going to really get some really cool stuff. But it really is not for, there's an old leadership style that is like a vampire. It just won't die. We keep trying to stake it in the heart and it keeps coming back. And it's that command control, old style leadership that honestly gets in the way. It gets in the way.
I when you say, "Oh, let them shine," it brought me another experience that I had with a person. Actually, was like everything was I have done, I have said, and if we have achieved this, because of me,
Yeah,
and it was all about him. Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating, and it was one of the things that really took away all the fun of working. Even if I had the passion for the job, it was like, it was really a vampire of motivation. It was all out of me. Yeah.
Ego will suck the ideas out of a room. It'll suck the joy. It'll suck the laughter. Ego kills more. It kills so many creative ideas. It kills so much. And it isn't, and that's the thing with yes and. I think it really requires people. It's moving from a me mindset to a we team mindset. And that is hard for some people. And you're 100% right. You're 100% right. So the people who have the easiest time, I've seen people change. I've seen me, and it took time, but they did transform. The people who have the easiest time with it, I think, are already team-driven folks. They believe in like lifting other people. It doesn't mean you can't get there. It means we have to be patient while people learn. And that's the hard part, is that we have to have a place of psychological safety that allows people to make the mistakes to get over the hurdle. And so if we do psychological safety well, we create a cushion for people to like, fall on their butt while they're skating and learn how to skate. But we've got to be patient while people learn. And that's the trick, is that we all want everyone to have the skills now. We can't do that. We've got to make it safe for people as they learn and transition. And that means leaders too. We've got to give people space and grace to screw up.
Well, that's something you say, especially I guess my generation, and probably the older generation too. Many people have been obsessed with having a successful career. And they had this mentality of being willing to do whatever was needed to get to the top.
Yeah.
Whatever is needed, it means like they might have been ruthless, right? And you mentioned a lot of things that they might have done. It's not just working 16 hours per day. I mean, it's your life and your decision. It's okay. But the problem is when you have to not manage, but lead people. And that's where this career focus gets on the way. Because you are destroying, you're not nurturing the team, you are destroying, you are really sucking everything out from these people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've seen not just in the Navy where I've been, in many other places, and I still hear it. It's not like it's not gone. But the good thing is that apparently the newer generation, they have a different concept.
Yeah.
Especially on the balance between life and work. Yes. So it's not about having the best salary and the best position, but it's also about living a good life.
Yes. And mental health And we didn't talk about it. Like when I was back in tech, we really didn't talk about mental health, and we should have, but I think we're making strides and we're talking about it. And your mental health cannot be good if you work in a command control kind of organization. It cannot be good. I think one of the things that, for me is, when you look at the science of humor and laughter and productivity, is what the research tells us is that leaders are twice as productive when they use humor with their teams and they make it safe for their teams. They're twice as productive because their teams know it's safe to screw up and get stuff done, and they're okay with it. They set that tone in their teams. I think the other part of it is, you said something really interesting, is when we're talking about humor and laughter and joy and all these things and safety, they really go together. They are so correlated. I mean, when people when you see the joy sucked out of somebody's eyes, you see their soul just kind of like, woo, deflate. It's like a balloon. But good luck trying to get them to light up, to give creative ideas, to get them to care. Good luck getting them to laugh. So when people are deflated and defeated and they feel the joy literally sucked out, you are killing creativity. So you should care. And it's funny to me that leaders are like, well, we don't really care. It's not about fun. I'm like, you should give a shit, because when fun goes, I'm telling you right now, your best ideas have just left the door. They have just walked out. And the fact that you don't get it and you don't care, that's a you problem, because you're going to lose your people. But here's the thing. You lost your people before they left, because they're sitting in those cubicles. They are not sharing their best ideas with you. Doesn't mean they don't have them. And then leaders will say, well, they need help with creativity. No, they don't. They're broken. Your leadership is busted.
Oh yeah, that's
a hard one. That's a hard one for them to hear. They ain't the problem, friend. You is. And that's a fun one. That's a hard conversation, but it's true. It's true.
But it's normal. A selfish leader,
yeah,
we always look for the problem outside.
Yeah.
Like it's not me, it's someone else. So it's the creativity, is this person, is the light, is the moon, whatever it is not me.
Yep.
Even if you try to hold the mirror in front of them, they would like, look, no, I don't see anything.
Well, vampires can't see their own reflection. They can't. They don't have a reflection in the mirror.
I like this. And then you mentioned, now we have names for everything, the quiet quitting that you were mentioning earlier. And the and or turnovers, where basically people just say, okay, have a good life. This is not the environment for me.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
Because maybe at some point you have to realize that it's you. If nothing gets better, and because you're not changing.
Well, and again, with a lot of leaders, I think it's really important that they understand the signs of their team: quiet quitting, lack of joy, lack of speaking up, lack of innovation, lack of laughter. These are the signs that you must, if you want to look at metrics, pay attention. Pay attention, because these things are telling you, and they all go together. And it really is a place where, when it becomes very stressful and there's no release and people don't feel safe to even say it or laugh to relieve the stress, it is a dangerous environment. I really do think it becomes all these things should be alarm bells for a really good leader. And again, I say to leaders that a lot of good leaders are afraid to have that conversation, but I'd say that's when you most need to have the conversation, because your people, when they don't feel safe, they're never going to tell you. It's not like I'm going to go up to you and go, hey, you know what? You make me feel unsafe. I just wanted to tell you. They're never going to tell you. So you're going to have to be an astute leader of reading people. And this is where it's so important that, our leaders have emotional intelligence, and that they can read a room and they can look at people and they go, I understand, right? Because it's not just the great managers. Leaders have to have such high amounts of emotional intelligence and empathy. And that's, to me, a good leader has those things.
And we go back to what we said at the beginning, right? Being a leader is having those soft skills.
Yes.
Being human. is to bring the human side to processes
Yeah. Yeah.
and leaders and whatever you have
Yeah.
to achieve a goal
Yeah.
or to accomplish a task.
Yes.
And but it's the people that you have,
Yeah.
and they are no machine.
Yes.
They have their own problems, they have their own stories, they have their own background and cultures
Yeah.
and things, and it does not exist. Even if we sometimes try to fool ourselves, it's not like I enter in the office and I'm leaving everything behind, and
Right.
my all the problem having with the family or whatever are left behind. It's not like that, right? I am dealing with those
Yeah.
even while I'm sitting
Yeah.
on the computer
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. For
The leader
sure.
has to understand this.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I think sometimes we forget and we try to, like, I see a lot of leaders try to isolate variables like, well, it's a culture problem or it's an innovation problem. And ultimately, yes, and that's true, but those are symptoms. The ultimate underlying issue is really a human one. It's always usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's an underlying human problem. And if you treat the human issue, those other symptoms will clear up, right? So, I think it's where there is a lack of innovation. I've never seen it be, leaders sometimes want to throw tech at the problem. They want to throw more money at the problem. They want to throw more training, and none of those are going to address the underlying issue. And it's like, you can waste all the money you want to. That's not your problem. So it really does go back to, again, the human issue, which, in an age of AI, it always comes back to the roots of being human, which is it safe here? Do I trust it? And I think we're at an era where leaders really need to practice incredible amounts of emotional intelligence and empathy. And without it, we really don't have much. We don't have much. So I think leadership is really changing that way. And I'm glad. It's taken a long time. It's taken a long time, I think, you know.
I'm happy you mentioned AI because actually this is one of the topics I'm really right
Yeah.
now curious. I'm focusing a lot of attention on how AI
Yeah.
can and will impact leaders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wonder if you have an opinion on this. If you have ever thought about how leaders can actually use AI to be better leaders.
Yeah. Such a good question. Oh my gosh. You're asking all the good questions today. That's a really interesting one. I think AI can definitely help. I think here's what I look to, and I think AI is going to help offload leaders from the things that humans don't do well. So in a good way, if we don't do certain things well, like certain efficiency and all that other stuff, AI can do that efficiently, but efficiency and effectiveness are not the same thing. And I like to think that if there's things that AI can do better, we should use it. But the one thing it's never going to do, is have the radical empathy and emotional intelligence. And that's not something you can farm out to AI. I think this is where leaders really have to be better leaders. And maybe some of the other things we can do, we can automate. So I hope that it makes our jobs easier. I hope that it makes that it offloads the things that that are more like task keeping and other stuff, because I think leaders need to really focus really on how the hell can I build more humanity into this organization. And I
Yes.
don't think that's AI. I don't think that AI is going to get us there.
Yes, and basically, and actually,
Yes.
I'm in total agreement with what you said. I don't need a yes and. I agree with
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And there is the one thing, you gonna probably the AI is gonna take some of your burden away, right? So
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah.
make processes and tasks very fast, and
Yeah.
you will have more time. And I think the important question is to leaders is like, okay, now how are you going to use the spare time that you have now
Yes.
that the AI is allowing to have?
Yes.
And I hope, and that's my hope, that they will actually, as you say, try to be better from emotional intelligence point of view,
Yeah.
or empathy, kind of have better soft skills to lead better. Also because AI, at the end of the day, introduces also a lot of doubts in the employees, right? So it's
Mhm.
you need to balance this. You need to be
Yeah.
smart
Yeah.
on this. You need to be a
Absolutely.
good leader on this.
You do. And I think it's, I think a lot of employees are afraid about being replaced by AI, and some of that's already happened. I think and that's all the more reason why, yeah, let it offload the things that humans don't do well, but then focus on the things that humans do well, which is being more human. And I think all the more that I think these things have to be dealt with. I honestly think maybe this is a renaissance for humanity, because, you know, I don't see anytime soon AI. Like, a lot of my friends, look, I'm a comedian. A lot of my friends try to write jokes with AI, or they try to like sharpen their jokes. And one of the things that I find fascinating is that AI is getting better. It can make suggestions, but AI to date isn't going to give you context, and humor needs context. And so I'm actually relieved that AI hasn't cracked the higher level thinking processes, because humor is a high level human thing. So I take heart in that, we can't be replaced by that, which tells me there are some things that are still so darn important that humans need to focus on. And that I'm like, yes, my job is safe. For now, it's
Then
gonna
my
scare
job is
them.
safe too, right?
For now, yes, because
As as a coach, we have a future.
yes, all the more.
Yes, and nonetheless, there are companies that are trying to develop coaching, AI coaching,
I know.
and there is actually, because I told you, right, I was focused. I really did some research on it, and there are some basic tools that AI can teach. It's not much of a coaching that as we know it, because there is no connection. But, they're like there's more problems like time management or this kind of things, that the AI can be helpful in a way. And the other thing is, like, I've learned that there are artificial intelligence tools that will help the leader to understand how the team is communicating. So basically, the AI analyzes, I don't know, emails or WhatsApp or these kind of things, and will provide an assessment on the team integration and some suggestion. And that's something that a little bit is scaring me. But
It
no, as a
scares. Oh
yeah,
my
but
God. You're 100% right. Can I just say it scares the pants off of me? It scares the bejesus out of me, because I really feel like I came out of tech. I was doing comedy at night, but I was leading teams in tech. And so I'm not like, I'm here in Silicon Valley. I live in an epicenter of silicon, yeah, of technology, right? But I often worry that tech the tech epicenter wants to throw more tech to solve human issues. And I worry about our fundamental, let's try to use tech to be more human, to replace what good leaders should do. And I'm okay with augmenting. I'm okay with augmenting and understanding things and having AI understand that and give us tools. But one of the reasons why I left tech was because I realized, with my improv background, I was really about bringing more humanity into business. My company's called Keeping It Human.
for a reason.
For a reason. And I think the more we try to figure out how to do things with tech, the more I worry that the very thing that we need to fix a lot of our ills, social ills, is more humanity. But we're trying to algorithm it away with tech. And I fundamentally worry that it's the spiral, because the answer to some of our problems isn't going to be more technology. It's more empathy. It's more kindness. I mean, great. is there an app for that? Because that's what is needed in a lot of our companies. And I just worry that maybe we think we can fix the world. Tech people think they can fix the world by throwing tech at every problem. And I don't think that's the case. And I know this because I worked in tech and I know this.
That's why actually I do agree on what some scientists and the personalities say, that you need some rules, you need regulations, but you need an international, and that's the main challenge, is that you need it in every business where they employ AI, in every nation and possibly worldwide, the same set of rules, because we want to get better as humans, as you say, not get worse.
Yeah.
And there is something that the AI is not, is human. It's having this flesh, and with bone and blood and the heart and the mind and everything, and it's still actually something that we're trying to discover more, how, for example, how our brain works. So there's
we are discovering more too, as we're I'm heartened by the fact that while we're learning more about AI, we are learning a lot more about how the brain works. And we are in an age where we are discovering the impact on the brain of play, of laughter, of humor, which tells me the science of being fundamentally human is exploding. At the same time, AI is, which tells me that we've got to find a way for these things to intersect and work together, but it cannot replace these higher level functions because they are so fundamentally human. We can't lose them.
And I think this is the perfect introduction to the last question. That is, if you have to give a suggestion to someone that comes to you and ask for recommendation to be a good leader, what this suggestion would be?
That's a big question. All these are really thinkers. I think it really, I always like to start with, well, what do you love about leadership, or why do you want to be a leader, or what do you think makes a good leader? And I always like to ask them, because I really think it starts with why. Why do you want to be a leader? It's not for everybody. Leadership is work. I think people think leadership is glamorous, and you and I both know it's not always glamorous, because sometimes we have to make the hard decisions and we have to have hard conversations, but we also have to do it with a lot of love, and we have to do it with a mentality of growing people. And also, leaders learn. Like, I don't know everything, and I'm learning from people that work with me just as much as they're learning from me. So I think a good leader is, are you open? Are you willing to be vulnerable? Are you willing to have some humility? Are you willing to see other people succeed? Can you put the team first? I think I would say those are the conversations I would have, because I think so many people want leadership because they want the extra bump and the money and the title. And I just, that's not it. That's not going to make you happy. Trust me. Because you and I both know that leading is hard. It's hard, man. No person in their right mind.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot beneath the surface, right?
A lot of it. There's so much. So why do you want it? And I don't know. And also really think about who's a good model for you. Who do you admire? A lot of people, look, I'm in Silicon Valley. I've said it. Everybody talks about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a marvel in terms of being a pioneer in innovation. Yet, yes, and he was not a great people leader in terms of, he wasn't known for kindness or empathy. And those are just facts. It's not a criticism. It's honest. It's honest. So if you're going to lead people, it's not about efficiency, and it's not about being a brilliant tech pioneer. That's part of it, and it's wonderful. Where's the empathy? What's your leadership style? Who do you look to that's really inspired you to grow? And I'd ask those really fundamental human questions, the ones that get ignored. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Thank you really for sharing your experience in a fun way, in an entertaining way, and for the great perspective on leadership. I really I'm coming out of this conversation with this idea of fun as a way to measure the trust
Yes.
within the team.
Yes.
It's really
Yes.
inspiring. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. What a great conversation. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.